The controversy surrounding the actions and eventual resignation of former National Security Adviser Michael Flynn. A column is getting nationwide attention. It's titled "The Political Assassination of Michael Flynn." And in it, Bloomberg View columnist Eli Lake writes, in part, quote, "That's all these allegations are at this point, unanswered questions. It's possible that Flynn has more ties to Russia that he had kept from the public and his colleagues. It's also possible that a group of national security bureaucrats and former Obama officials are selectively leaking highly sensitive law enforcement information to undermine the elected government." Let's bring in Eli Lake, Bloomberg View columnist. And Eli, I mentioned nationwide attention. That's what happens when the president of the United States also tweets out your article. So a lot to get to here and a lot of attention on your piece. You mapped out two different possibilities of what this story is all about. Which possibility do you think is the most likely one?
Well, I think it's possible it could be both. I should say that I've covered Mike Flynn for some years now, and I don't know him as the kind of person who would, tell an outright lie like that. But at the same time, I'm waiting for the information, and it would be great if these transcripts that are being described by various anonymous officials were released to the public and we could judge for ourselves. What I've heard is that Mike Flynn, forgot an element of a conversation that he had with the Russian ambassador, in which the Russian ambassador raised the sanctions, and he said, we're coming into power in a couple weeks. We'll take a look at all of Russia policy. Cool your jets. I'm obviously sort of summarizing, not directly quoting or anything like that. And that, to me, is very different than if he had a whole conversation about sanctions and then kept that from the vice president and his colleagues at the White House. And if that's the version of events, then I think we're going to find out that Flynn really is was smeared here.
Well, and as you point out, we'll see. Quite frankly, no one has the content of these calls, but somebody does. And you were able to speak to a White House official who characterized the calls, and that's what you were telling us a little bit about. I'd like you to tell our viewers, as someone that has worked in the intelligence space as far as reporting on it and has had to go through a fair bit of information and figure out what's what, this leak about Michael Flynn specifically speaking to a Russian official, how big of a deal is that leak is out there? How would you characterize that, Eli?
It's almost never do you read about monitored communications of American citizens, let alone public officials. And there's a good reason for that, because if you can selectively leak intercepted conversations and communications of your political rivals, then that's something that we associate with banana republics and police states, because we trust the NSA and the FBI to have this awesome power to monitor communications to stop crime and terrorism and so forth. But you can abuse that power if you selectively leak this stuff out about officials, from the cloak of anonymity. So in my view, that's a very serious concern. America in some ways has been there before, in the era of J. Edgar Hoover, the former powerful FBI director who had files on American politicians. But we look back at that and we say that was, America got off the rails, that the security state in some ways was too powerful in those years, and there were excesses. And so I would hate to see us kind of normalize this sort of thing, because it's unfair to the people who are being leaked about. And I think in the end, it even undermines what I think is a very necessary and important investigation into the Trump campaign's contacts with Russia.
Based on your reporting, you quoted a few different officials, including Devin Nunes, important intelligence. He's on the Intelligence Committee, a lawmaker, very crucial in all of this. And you end your article this way. You say, put another way, Flynn is only the appetizer. Trump is the entree. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that in terms of Trump's very fierce political opposition, and I would say opposition from within the government and the national security state, having the success of knocking out Flynn in less than a month is not going to sate their appetites. It's going to, you're going to see that they're going to continue to try to knock out they're going to be emboldened, So that is just a kind of basic rule of politics. And what's interesting to me is that this, President Trump has, had given no quarter at all to many objections that people have had on any number of things that he has done in his first 3 weeks in office. On this, he caved like a deck of cards there.
What do you make
I
of
don't know
that? I
what
only
to
have
say.
about 20 seconds here, Eli, but what do you make of that?
I think that whoever gave him that advice didn't give him very good advice, politically speaking, because I think it's going to embolden his opposition.
And that means there's certainly more coming. And we've seen a little bit of that in the New York Times. Eli, we hope to have you back. I know you're going to be working on another big piece. And by the way, well, I can't ask this. I actually have to go to break. But Eli, we look forward to having you back on the program.
Thank you.
President Trump tweeted about Eli's piece, and well, you know how that goes. We'll be right back.
Okay, thanks.